Welcome to your listening test. Before we begin, I'd like to walk you through an overview of the listening test. You will always have one unscored practice task at the beginning. This task is just for practice. It is not rated and it doesn't count towards your score in any way. It's just to get you started or get you in the mood to answer the questions. And then you will be scored on 6 different parts. You may find an additional items on the test. These additional items are unscored. They are only there for research and development purposes. They are not scored and they do not affect your performance in any way. I'll explain these additional items a little more. Many times when test takers get these questions on the test, they freak out. They literally freak out. You don't have to worry about it. What are these additional items? So they are questions that are given to you to answer before future test takers get to do them on the test. So for example, you have 6 listening parts. You're done with your listening part 1 and now you move on to listening part 2. And when you're done with part 2, you're expecting part 3 to pop up. But then you see another part 2. That second part 2 is an additional item. Or you've answered your listening part 4 and now it's time to move on to part 5. But then you get another part 4. That means your additional item came up in part 4. Or you're done with your part 6 and it's time to breathe out. I am finally done with this test. And then surprisingly, you see another part 6 pops up. That means your additional items comes up in listening part 6. So regardless of which part it comes from, it doesn't count towards the score. However, you do not know which one counts towards the score and which one is the additional item. You got 2 listening part 2. You do not know which of these 2 are an additional item. You got 2 listening part 6. You don't know which of these 2 are your additional items. So you have to answer all of them with the same importance. You don't know which one counts and which one doesn't count. So you may also get additional items in the reading as well, but it's just one. No one ever gets 2 additional items on a test. Okay. Now, let's talk about the format of the test. You will complete the listening test just under an hour. Yes, just under an hour. And you will be answering 38 questions. Yes. Each listening part is different from the other in some way, but they all have something in common. One thing that you have in common is that all 38 questions are multiple choice in the drop-down menu. So you don't have to worry about typing or spelling or I don't know how to spell. You don't have to worry about any of that. All you are doing is clicking on A or B or C or D. So yes, they are different in some ways, but they all have something in common. All multiple choice in the drop-down menu with 4 options. Now, each listening clip is either a conversation between 2 or 3 people or a short report given by one speaker about something, so anything general, could be about anything. So, listening part 1 is a conversation between 2 people. Part 2, part 3, conversation between 2 people. However, part 4 is a local report by one speaker. Part 5 is a video conversation between 3 people, and part 6, which is the final listening part, is another report by a single speaker. Something else that they all have in common is the next button. You must already have known this from your writing and reading classes. Yes, all the listening part has a next button. This means you can click on next when you're done answering a particular question and you still got time left. However, before you click on next, you should be very sure. Actually, I do not recommend my students clicking on next, but if you have to, if you need to, you should be sure of your answers. Before you click on next, check your answers again to make sure they are correct. The reason is, the moment you click next, you won't be able to come back again. Yes, you won't be able to go back to the previous listening part. So what if you made a mistake? So do not be in a hurry to click on next. The only benefit of clicking next is that you'll finish the test a little sooner than the others. It's really not worth it. So please take your time. Take your time before you click on next. Finally, you will hear the audio only once. That means you cannot repeat it again, neither can you pause it. Please pay attention. Listen carefully. One interesting part about the CELPIP listening is that unlike many other English language proficiency exams where you are listening and seeing the question at the same time, for CELPIP listening, it's not like that. You are listening, but you are not seeing the question. You only get to see the question after the audio is over. Yes, after the audio is over. So please listen very carefully. There are some listening parts that may require you taking notes, especially the tougher parts like part 6 and part 5. We're going to walk you through all of that. But the goal is, please make sure you listen carefully. Again, you will always be provided with note paper and pen during the test. So you don't have to take notes if you don't want to, but taking notes, especially during the tougher reading parts, might really help you. Now, this is a brief overview of the CELPIP listening test. Hopefully, this will help you as we prepare or will delve properly into your listening part 1. See you in class.